I call this work study session to order. It's 5:30 on Thursday, December 11th, 2025. We're at the Jerry Roby District Facility. We have 3 board members present, Brian Cirancione, Kelly Zimmerman, and myself, Sarah Schmidt. We also have Dr. Christy Wilson and Dr. Steve Joel from McPherson and Jacobson present. Item 1.2 is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3 is the superintendent search process with Dr. Steve Joel and Dr. Christy Wilson from McPherson and Jacobson. And I will let you take over.
Well, I'm going to have Christy pass out the agenda. You've got it.
Yep.
Got a copy of the agenda. So we're honored and excited to work with you. I'm sure you've learned about our firm just as we try to learn about your
Oh,
district.
you have to talk in the microphone.
Oh, sorry. I'm sure you've learned about our firm. We've done quite a few searches here in the Phoenix area. We know that there's great opportunities here. We also know there's great challenges here too. And so our company really takes great pride in getting the right people into the right seats and stability. Because, and I apologize, I've got an allergy thing going on. I actually, I'm not contagious, just so you know. But anyway, we believe very strongly that a superintendent needs to be in a seat for 5 years. And we know that in order to move the needle for your children in a positive way, that has to be the case. So every position that we begin to recruit for and we work with districts with, we want to learn your culture. And because candidates are going to be asking us about your culture, we want to learn what your challenges and what your opportunities are. And then we just take we're just really proud of the fact that we've got a high longevity rate. So superintendents that come through our model, they like our model. It's very inclusive. It's very transparent, and we communicate with them on a regular basis. So what we'd like to do today, the primary work today, and I'm really happy that Dr. Wilson's going to be working with me on this. She's been with the company as well for a while. What we really want to do, the primary work is you need to tell us what you're looking for so that we can begin to profile the position and ultimately post it. But we want to cover some just logistics of the search, and we'd like to hear from you a little bit too, in terms of, what has been your experience. If there's things that we don't need to duplicate, we'd rather not duplicate. But by the same token, we want to make sure that if we're going to be representing you, we know your district, we know your community very, very well. And having Dr. Wilson very close certainly is going to be a benefit to the search as well too. So with that, if you would, let's take a look at the calendar. I think everybody is interested in that. I appreciate we appreciate the fact that you want to get going quickly. We will tell you that this is prime time right now for the superintendent search. There's quite a few openings in Arizona, as you know. It's around the country, but the window between December 1 and the end of February, March 1, is really when the first round of superintendent searches take off. So the timing for this is good. We would propose that we advertise the position December 15th through the 29th. And we not only advertise, we'll recruit on your behalf too. So we have well, he just told me this the other day. We have close to 5,000 registered ed leaders with our company. And so immediately after we get the paperwork done on the posting, we'll reach out to every one of those folks. And interesting enough, almost every search that we do, there are people in states probably that you wouldn't think was the case that are interested in coming back to the area. Some are many are very successful administrators as well. So we'll cast a wide net on your behalf. And that advertising, Dr. Wilson and I will be, our company handles all the paperwork. We do all the candidate vetting and culling. We close it on the 29th, and what we'd like to do is schedule a meeting on February 16th or 17th in which we can, and it doesn't have to be that day. I'm just putting that out as a calendar consideration. We would like all the board members to be there if at all possible. And we can arrange that around, whatever time of day you'd like. But that'll be the day when we come in. We need about 3 hours of your time when we will bring completed files on the applicants that most closely align with what you're looking for. And when we do that meeting, and in Arizona, we're able to do that in closed session for personnel reasons, and that's to protect the candidates. We basically will give you the lowdown on each and every one of them. And then we include a video interview with each of those that we believe are shortlist candidates, meaning they most closely align with what you're seeking. And then you'll have access to all of the candidate files. So you'll have their resumes, their references, their answer to the application question when we write it. And then if you're like every other board that we've ever worked with, you'll be Google searching who these folks are as well too. So it's really our responsibility to make sure we know everything about the candidate. We share that with you, which is why closed session is more appropriate, primarily because we'll let you know if there's anything there that is cause for concern, and then we'll help you through a process. We'll tell you this, Christy and I talk about this all the time. There really isn't a sitting superintendent that I know of anywhere in America that doesn't have a couple of bad articles on something, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the game. But we also know in this day and age of instant communication and social media that there's just a lot of scrutiny that takes place. So really, we want to make sure that we're well versed with these candidates as well as you. But remember, when I talked about we have to learn your culture, we have to know what we're talking about with these candidates because we don't want to sell them a bad bill of goods. And when we talk about, excuse me, when we talk about the fact that you've had multiple superintendents in a short period of time, we need to put forward our best foot and make sure that we can convince candidates that this is going to be a long-term arrangement, because that's what superintendents are looking for. They're looking for an opportunity to make a difference, and it's really our job to work with you and your school community to just put the elements in place to get that done. And typically through our searches, boards come together in a unified way because this is the most important decision you have to make. And communities do as well too, and they appreciate the ownership. So we'll talk more a little bit about that when we get there. So then on February 6th, we'll present the finalists, and then typically we would say you can interview the next week. And that just gives people an opportunity to make arrangements to get here. They could be local, they could be southern part of your state, they could be a surrounding state. We may get somebody that's from Wisconsin that just is dying to come to Liberty. I mean, does happen. Honestly, I will tell you this, because it's February, January, people in Minnesota and Michigan and Wisconsin are thinking about warmer climates. So any questions on that, and we'll work more closely with you on those dates. But, again, we need about 3 hours on that 16th or 17th, and Christy and I cleared our calendars for that. So if those dates work, great. If they don't, if we have to negotiate those, we can.
Do we know when our meeting is in February? I should know that, but I don't.
The 9th and the 23rd.
President's Day is February 16th, so I would not suggest that day.
February. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
9th and
9th.
23rd.
Yeah, it's in mine.
So is the 17th a better day then?
Yeah, since President's Day is the 16th and there's no school and, we need the staff. So the 17th, I say that we just decide right now that it's the 17th and everybody can arrange, people have 2 months to arrange their calendars to make that work.
Okay.
Because this takes top priority at this point. So we'll just do that.
Just gonna put a journal entry here. Um, 5:30, 6, I mean, you name the time.
I mean, 5:30 is our standard starting time. So let's just go with that. Sorry, Brian, is that okay? Because I know Tuesdays are hard for you.
Yeah, I can make it
You
work.
can make it work. Okay, thank you.
And again, we
I
need
forgot
about
about
3
that.
hours for that meeting too. We'll talk a little bit more about what that meeting will include, but the big part, the most important thing is we'll present finalists to you.
Can I ask a couple
Please.
questions about kind of parts of what you have shared? So in terms of this this meeting, one of the things that I had asked, like when we interviewed the firms, was this idea of like a portal, and we be able to like kind of preview the candidates.
Mhm.
Because I'm a processor, like I'm just going to speak for myself, right? And I like to have time to read and not feel rushed. I mean, I think it's a really big. So are we going to have the opportunity to do
Yes.
that? Okay, prior to that.
Yep, we will. We'll ask that you sign a confidentiality agreement, and and once we have that, we'll give you access to our portal,
Okay.
so you can look at the candidates. But one of the things that we do our level best to guarantee the candidates is that names don't get leaked out until
Sure.
we're ready to leak those out.
Absolutely.
So,
In regards to that, though, the week of the 23rd, if we're doing that, those interviews will be in public, correct? Or are you trying to put those?
yeah,
behind
so
closed doors?
let's talk about that if you don't mind. I mean, so
That's okay.
in Arizona, we typically do that. We make them public, and when we meet on the 16th or on the 17th to meet with you, what we'd like to do is whittle that down to a manageable 2, maybe 3 if we just got outstanding candidates. A lot of ed leaders are comfortable if it's one of 2, as opposed to say interviewing 4 people publicly. So if that just works the best in terms of making sure that we get the quality of candidates that stay in the application process. Does that make sense? Okay.
Is it okay if I ask
Absolutely, sorry.
okay, follow-up question? So, in this meeting then, like where we're narrowing it down, we're gonna have a video interview, right? That's what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Will we get to choose the questions for those?
Okay. So the video interview really is we build. So the purpose of this meeting, and I'm going to back you up just a little bit
Yeah.
because we're building this on the premise that when we come on the 17th, we're going to bring you the list of people that we're going to bring you all the applicants, and you'll have access to the applicants. So you may create your own list, which is fine. But we're going to, for the integrity of the search, we're going to find those that most closely align with what you're looking for. And then those people will have done a video interview that we'll bring to the meeting. And if you want to ask those questions, that's great. But typically, once we learn your culture, we'll create 3 questions that are pretty consistent with what people are looking for. But it's not to decide who gets the job. It's just more or less a meet or greet. Does that make sense? So that's not a formal interview part of it. Now, if you wanted to do a round 1, certainly you could do that. You could bring people in for round 1. We wouldn't think that would be necessary for this search.
Let me say something. So
Mhm.
I think like what you could expect from a video, like tell us a little bit about your experiences, tell us who you are. Maybe you could, because we'll help them kind of with our questions. So the video is not going to be super long. It's not going to be like an
3-minute
hour
questions.
long video, but the questions, it's designed so that you will get a sense of maybe a little bit about their background, maybe a little bit about their experience. So it's more of a snapshot of like, you'll walk away going, okay, this person has maybe some, it's a seasoned superintendent, or maybe it's not a superintendent, but an assistant superintendent from a larger district or smaller district. You get an idea of who they are, that follows with the paperwork. Does that kind of give you a little sense?
Yeah, I'm kind of envisioning that it's really more of a way. I, like for me, I'm thinking of it as in when you look at someone on paper, you don't get a good sense of who someone is necessarily. But if we have a 6 or 7 minute video where they're speaking, you get to hear how they talk, you see what they're doing, and that helps you understand the person on the paper a little bit better. Not that we're really getting an in-depth background on them, just that like they're not just this two-dimensional thing. We now have 3 dimensions and we can see that better. So that's kind of how I envisioned that.
And I get that. I guess my concern with just, I basically feel like they're going to kind of regurgitate what's on paper. And I'm like, I don't know that that's going to help me personally narrow it down. And if you'd like us to get to 2 or 3, that feels like a lot for me. And I don't know how many people we're going to get, right? Like I can only base it off of like what I've already experienced, what I experienced as a community member and lived that experience as well. So to me, yeah.
And I would, Kelly, I would say that once we get here, you'll feel pretty comfortable with it. You'll have a chance to review the applications yourself. I mean, in the old days, we didn't do the video interviews. And to your point, Sarah, it's exactly what it is. It's to put a face with an application and how they present themselves, right? And by the way, in terms of regurgitation, there'll be 3 unique questions. So we'll pull those off of the things that we learn about your culture. And so it might be, the first question might be, tell us why you're the best fit for this position. But then we may drill down, in terms of, what it is that you're looking for specifically. So you'll see that. Now, is it mechanical? Yeah. They're not going to read anything, but you're going to see them it's staged. They've practiced.
Sure.
But you want somebody using good grammar. You want them to have good voice tone, all of those things.
It could also be, though, that let's say as we learn more about the district, I'll just make something up. Let's say the district's experiencing declining enrollment and budgetary issues. I don't know. And as we learn the culture, through one of the questions, we want to find out, has the candidate figured out how to solve that in an innovative way? And we ask them, talk about, as your leadership journey, what did you do specifically about that? It's like a tease almost.
Yeah.
And you want to know more about that.
Yeah. And I think I would feel more comfortable if there was like one question that was a little bit more specific to the needs of our district. Like
There will be.
Thinking about like how to build, positive culture,
Yes,
like to me,
There will be.
and that I think will help us not just see, okay, I know what your experience is, I can read it.
Right.
So.
Correct.
Okay, good. So let's talk about those interviews, because you mentioned, Brian, you asked a question about the interviews. So when we decide, and we'll work with you on this one, how do you narrow it down? I mean, that's why we'll present alphabetically. Let's say we have 4 people that we think meet your criteria. We'll present them one by one alphabetically. You look at the video, you got the files, you've done your homework, you've looked at the portal, so you've got a pretty good sense. We'll be able to answer any questions about anybody that, we don't think is deserving of being a finalist. That doesn't mean that you can't ask for them to be brought forward. We just probably won't have a video interview of those people, but that doesn't happen often. But on the rare occasion that it does, we'll be prepared to get the information that you need. And then you narrow down to that 2 if we can, and 3 if we have to. And then the question really is, who would you like to include in the interview process? Because that typically is a public interview where they spend a good portion of a day in your district. What we've done in a lot of the other Arizona searches is we pick an interview day at some point in the future, and February 23rd, could be the 24th, 25th, and then we round robin them. right? So a lot of the Arizona districts will have of course, you for an hour and a half. We like to build in for the interview with you and the candidate, but then you might want a community group, community business group. You might want staff group. We would recommend a staff group. Certainly, admin should be included in this. Typically, what we do is we say 4 groups. We can do a round robin schedule with 4 groups in the board. Somebody would start with the board at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. There's probably a day when you might have to take off some work in order to get that done. But then you decide who you want to include in that process. And then we work with their chairs to tell them that you don't get to rank them, but the board really wants your feedback. So we have a really simple form that we give everybody that participates in your process. What are the strengths of the candidates? What questions or concerns do you have about the candidates? We include students as well too. A lot of times we pair students with staff, and it gives a good flavor. If you feel like that's worthwhile. Go ahead, Brian. Question?
No, so I just want to make sure I got this right. So on the 16th, we're not actually going to talk to any candidates. Like, you're just going to bring packets and
17th.
videos. Sorry. I didn't. 17th. And then once we whittle it down to 2 or 3, then that week of February is when we're going to start the actual one-on-one or group
Yes.
interviews. Okay. I'm good with that. And I do like the fact the round robin method, that I like that too. Even if the only concern with the round robin that pops in my head when we're doing that is the members who might be on a committee might not be in the same location, correct? So they might not hear how the interview went. I guess they can go back and look at it. But after that day, are you expecting us to make the decision? No, we'll come back, right? The following week and make a decision.
Yeah, so that's typically what we've done. Is you're a processor, so probably trying to make that decision right away isn't going to yield the best result. So you schedule a meeting, say a week. Do you have a board meeting sometime after the 23rd?
So
March 9th.
not that day.
I can try and call in.
Well, could you do a special board meeting? And I'll say
Yes,
that.
yes,
Okay.
we do them all the
I-
time.
So, I guess the other part of the question is, after that week, do you collect? So you're going to collect the not rankings, but what people thought, feedback, right? So do you collect that as soon as that group's done?
Mhm.
So when do you collect feedback from the community who wasn't part of that group, but then took a day or two to actually watch all the videos? When do you get that feedback?
Well, we can set something up online pretty easily for that. That's what we've done with some of the other searches, right? So they can submit comments. And we'll work with your tech folks on how to do that through the live feed, right? So they sort of like entering it into a chat. But to your question, when we decide which groups you want to use, we'll ask you to populate them, and then we'll ask you to give us the name of a chair that you believe could be the organizer of that group, right? And so what we'll do is we'll coach them up, and we'll say, after each interview, have your committee members fill out the information form, put it in a sealed envelope, and then when the second interview is done, turn that in to somebody. And then you get to see all of that at a time when you deliberate. Sorry about
I kind of want to go back for a second to talk about these. So, when we did this, when your company actually did this process for Chef, when we hired Lori Chef, there was just one committee essentially that was a mix of staff and parents. But that interview wasn't public. That interview was just the people that served on the committee, and then the interview with the board was public.
Right.
So I think we as a board have to decide if we want to record essentially all of those different interviews or just, because Ryan made it sound like we would be recording all those.
Yeah, we would recommend, we haven't in the other searches.
Yeah.
The only thing, because a lot of the folks that are serving on those committees, I mean, they're not looking for the public part of that. What they want to do is board service for you. And then the public meeting is the board meeting.
And so,
That makes sense.
yeah, I think it might be a little tricky to do everybody, but it would be important to me for the board interview to be public and that there is an opportunity
Yeah.
for like some Google form or something that people can, to me, that seems like the easiest, right? That we all have access to, that we can just quickly like look at their feedback.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but I just kind of wanted to clarify that before we went forward. But have you guys ever done like a task, like have the candidates do some sort of task, or
Yes. It's a little unnatural, but we have. And it typically is asking the candidate to prepare a 15-minute presentation on the highest priorities for the district and strategies to address those priorities. And so it's a PowerPoint presentation to do. We can do it. I think you can get the same effect through good questions.
I do want to mention, make sure we're clear on this Google form that you're talking about, because I want to make sure what feedback form. I don't know if it has to be Google,
Yeah.
but because I think it's important to distinguish the difference between, so when we do our, I think we're calling them round robin interviews,
Sure.
and we collect feedback and then give it to you. That's different than when we do kind of like we call it a stakeholder form or, interview. That's not an interview, but a stakeholder, what do we call it with K-12 Insight? What is that called?
Well, it's the stakeholder engagement,
yeah,
and
that's
we'll talk
different.
about that here in a minute.
Yeah, I
but
just want to make sure.
that's
when we
different.
get there.
We're talking about the interview now.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it is important for it to be differentiated between the round robin, because we know that they like fully participated, were in there the whole time. The Google sheet will have to consider that, they only watched one of the interviews or they listened to their neighbor on Facebook or, and that's, as I think our responsibility as board members to, be cognizant of all those things.
Well, we want to capture as many voices as we can on the front end, but also during that interview part. But at the end of the day, honestly, the people on the committees are going to have a good feel for it. And what you're really looking for is consistency in how they present themselves and what kind of a fit they are for your district, right? So when we do those committees, feedback forms that we get would typically be strength is good communicator, has a plan, there's a vision, has experience in Arizona, has been a success everywhere they've been, right? I mean, those are good themes. Concerns would be, is coming from a big city to Liberty, is that too much of a leap? That's the kind of feedback you get, which is supplemental to what you've experienced through the interview. It works. And, again, we feel really good when you have a tough decision to make, because it means we brought you pretty good candidates. And really what we're looking for is two, if we can get two high quality people that make a tough decision, then we feel like we've done a good job, and then you get the superintendent that you want. All right, now, one thing that I know Don Grading did the presentation, right? Dr. Grading, was he here? Yeah. One of the things that we do too that makes a difference for our company is you get the superintendent through phases 1 through 4, and then we come back in and work with you and the new superintendent to set those first year performance objectives. And we really believe that that is the difference maker in terms of our longevity percentages, because really the board and the superintendent then getting on the same page, it makes that first year productive. as opposed to how do I figure this out? So, okay. All right. For advertising, we would recommend our website, which gets close to 10,000 hits a month. We're going to do at least one, probably two mass mailings to all of our registered ed leaders around the country. And then ASSA is one that is pretty much a gold standard for school districts, right? And it's about $500 or $600, but it's well worth it. And all of the superintendents and assistant superintendents in America really pay attention to it. We get something every day from ASSA talking about where those opportunities are, and then they provide a link back to the application. So we wouldn't, that would be really it. I mean, we wouldn't ask you to do Ed Week and some of the other ones. And there are other, I mean, we can purchase other advertising venues. We're trying to be cost conscious. So does that make sense? Those two? Okay. And again, our website is really taken off. I'm gonna skip the because I want to get over. I'm gonna skip the search criteria for a second and
Could we go back to the stakeholder engagement
Yeah, that's what I said.
for the week of January 12th?
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over that. Apologize. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So the stakeholder engagement, and we've done it a couple different ways, but what we normally do on that is we spend a day in the district and we talk to a variety of stakeholders. It can involve students, but many times it's a group of teachers, classified administrators, and we ask them basically 3 questions. Both basically we want to get a feel for the culture, like Steve mentioned, of the district. And we spend just a fair amount of time talking to them about, what is it that, the district is, what are the positives about the district? We start off with, the basic question is, tell us a little bit about the district and what would a potential superintendent want to know about the district? Why would they want to come be a part of the Liberty community? And so we just gather all kinds of feedback, take a lot of copious notes about that. The second question is really centered around the characteristics and traits of, what is it that they're looking for in that superintendent? Really hone in on those traits and characteristics. And then the third question is, what are the primary opportunities or challenges? And so we feel like we just spend as much time as we can talking through a variety of stakeholders about those 3 questions. And then afterwards, we compile a really thorough report in an executive summary type format, and we present that to the board. And so you'll get, a really complete summary of what the stakeholders said. And then Steve, why don't you talk about the K-12 insight that matches, goes along with that?
So not we need some staff support on setting a schedule, right? So typically during that day, it would be your administrators, it would be your teachers, it would be your certified, non-certified employees, it would be students. And then we like to do something with your community, right? So an open invitation to attend a meeting with the consultants. And it's really around those 3 questions. But we also know not everybody can make those meetings. So we'll do we'll put on your website a survey that's done by a company that we partner with, K-12 Insight. They're national, they're in half of the districts in America. And we'll run an open invitation to anybody that wants to respond to those 3 questions, and we'll run it for about 10 days. So we can gather all this feedback, and then typically the stakeholder feedback through K-12 Insight is organized in such a way that, we know, are they students, are they parents, are they community, and what are those top themes that people are interested in. And then as Christy mentioned, then we'll compile an executive summary that we'll present to you publicly. And then we'll give you the other data too that you can look at too in terms of tables, what people were saying. Question that I had coming in, because you've been through other superintendent searches, have you done that with the other groups, with the other firms?
I can't remember like if it was done with Lori Schuff, but certainly not with Dr. Monroe because they hired him as an interim and then didn't do a permanent search and just transferred him over.
And we did Schuff search. Okay, I wasn't involved in that one, which is
One of
kinda-
the things I really like about the stakeholder survey that K-12 does is you can sort it. So you have really great data that's, this is someone that's a resident without children who answered this question this way. This is a parent with children. This is whatever. And it gives you some really great data into the culture of the district. So I don't know, that's a good question. If you have the data or you have survey data that's similar to this, you may not need this, but you may decide that you want this.
So is it an additional cost? Is that
No,
what?
this is all included.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Just
Well,
you were making it sound like if you already have it, you don't need it. I was just trying to understand.
well, the only reason I said that is typically when a district had a previous search, they've gone through all of that, right? So, people might say, why am I being asked this again?
Right,
If
okay.
that's not the case, this is great because this will be original. And so we'll get a chance to meet with that. So what we'd like to do then is have you maybe ask a staff member to work with Christy on a day to spend here, and then some kind of a community forum. Maybe it's at your library or some kind of a central gathering place. We get good turnouts in Arizona for these stakeholder sessions. I mean, people really do care about their schools. So with enough notice, we should get some good participation. And at the end of the day, what really matters here is that you're willing to invite them in, provide that feedback and input, and they're going to appreciate that. And that's going to help with the ownership of the next superintendent who you appoint.
It's fairly informal. At the times we've done it, I just take notes. I ask questions, they kind of raise their hand and, we just go around the room and it's very, you gather the themes and just write the executive summary.
Is that good? Okay, so board interview questions. I'm skipping compensation and search criteria. So board interview questions, the way we like to do it is this. We like to ask each board member to come up with 3 to 4 questions that they would like to ask in an interview. And at some point between now and, we'll send reminders, but let's say we want those to us a couple of weeks before we come back in and meet with you, which would be on the 17th. And we'll take your questions and we'll compile them into something that will read well. So if there's duplications, we'll do some combining. If you want to write a question about a scenario, and if you struggle with that, we got plenty of questions. So, but we really are interested in what you're interested in. And so maybe you can think about that, and by February 1st, you get those questions to us. And when we come back in on the 17th, we'll go over those with you, hopefully in closed session, because that would be proprietary. And we can just do a little practicing for your part of the interview.
Sorry. Okay. So then, you're thinking that we would ask around 15-ish questions to the candidate.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I will tell you, having done this so many times, 17 is sort of the magical number for an hour and a half. And then the last question is, do they have any questions of you? So that typically will be a 5 or 7 minute interaction that you'll have. And they'll have questions. And we'll prep you for that too.
In terms of the interview questions, so you want 3 to 4 per board member, and then you'll kind of, read through them. I'm sure there's going to be things that are very similar. You can combine them, write it into a good question, and then you're going to bring them back to us, and we will have the final say on what questions will be used. Okay, so we can make sure that all of the important issues there's a question relating
Yep.
to all of
Yep.
the major themes
Yep.
and
Yeah, that's why we'll
because
do it
that
on
was
the
an
17th.
issue at the last one, that there were definitely things missing. We didn't get to approve the questions before the interview. And I felt like there were some glaring omissions that we should have asked the candidates. So to make sure that we have final approval of the
Final
question.
approval. They're your questions.
Perfect.
You know, one of the things that I know some groups go to a bank of questions. It's the same question. These need to be your unique questions about your district. Okay. All right. So if you flip the page, we talked a little about the interview format. So, you know, depending upon schedules, maybe it's something that starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and goes till about 7 or 8. We'll work on a round robin sort of a format, decide exactly which groups you want to include. And then when we come back on the 16th or the 17th, one of the things that we would like to do, once you've got those groups populated and a chair identified, we'd like to meet with those chairs. And then they do it the same way. We say to the chairs, reach out to your committee, ask them to come up with a question or two. They only get 45 minutes typically in our model. And then we work with the chair on making sure that the questions are legal, they don't cross any boundaries or anything like that. And then how to collect the data so that it could be reported to the board.
How many people do you typically like?
6 to 8.
Okay. And there's just less than I was thinking. I just think that there are going to be a lot of people that want to be involved. And so you suggest that as a board, we pick all of those people, or
So here's an easy way to get to
I
that.
think we're going to need 10. I think each of us
Well,
are
we
going
can
to
go
need to
10.
pick 2.
Kelly, we can do 10.
10
We
is
can do 10.
fine. I mean,
But we 10 we can do 12. But the problem the issue is we want to make sure that people that are on the committee feel like their voice is being heard.
Yeah.
So again, with 45 minutes, it makes it a little tough. But what we can do is, and a lot of boards will do this, is let's see who shows up at the community forums, because those are the people that are pretty interested. The other thing we've done pretty regularly is each board member picks two people that they'd like to put on there. So we can do it any way you'd like, but you reach out and get those groups in. You got a little bit of work to do between now and when we come back in on the 17th.
Can you discuss the groups again? It was like administrators.
Yeah. So admin is typically a standalone group. Staff you can do it one of two ways. You can do staff and students, or you can do certified and non-certified to put them in the same group. Community. And then you.
And
10 is good.
so the chair would be responsible for working with the committee to
Yes.
come up with the questions.
and we can help.
We help.
Okay, ahead of time though.
Yes.
Okay.
The turnaround time is with 17th to whatever the interview is. So there's 4 or 5 days there. Excuse me. They have to move pretty quickly, but once they do, it'll run well.
But the board could work on getting the committees
Yes.
organized ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you had those committees organized, let's say shortly after the first of the year, got your chairs identified, we could have those meetings Zoom
Right.
and put them in position well in advance if they'd like that. Okay, so if you look at the 17th, and the 16th is no longer in play, but the 17th, when we come back, we're going to present the final, our recommended shortlist. Doesn't mean that that's the only people you're going to talk to, but that's going to be the ones that we vetted. By the way, with every viable candidate, we do an individual interview with them. So, we're not going to leave anything to chance. We want to make sure who they are. They are who they say they are. We'll help you. We'll work you through a process on who you're most interested in interviewing. We'll finalize the interview schedule. We'll talk to you about a decision-making process that we use a lot. Well, we'll actually use it when we whittle down to who you're most interested in interviewing. And then we'll work with you a little bit on offering and negotiating a contract. We don't negotiate contracts, but when we have a chance to talk with you about salary parameters, we make sure our candidates know what that salary parameter is. So there isn't any surprise with regard to that. And then the week of February 23rd, when you do the interviews, we've talked about the format, we can do a round robin. We always encourage expenses for candidates. A lot of the Arizona districts like it when we reimburse the candidate for expenses, and then we appropriately submit that bill to you as part of our final bill. Consultants don't typically attend interviews, but we can. That's above and beyond the contract. It's a nominal amount. Christie's so close. I mean, I would think if you wanted that, we could certainly have somebody here for that. And that's about 50-50 with the districts we work with in terms of them wanting a consultant as part of the interview process. And then additional vetting, which isn't going to be anything we have to be concerned with. And then once you make a decision, we start thinking about that retreat in June or July with the new superintendent to create that framework for success. Okay?
The only thing that we didn't decide, and I would just suggest that the week of January 12th, we do stakeholder meetings January 12th. That's a Monday. I think it's a Monday. If we can, and I can work with whoever you,
That's the board.
okay, are those, like, it doesn't involve you guys, because the stakeholder meetings would be teachers.
But if they want to attend the meeting and we require our administrators to
Okay,
attend.
so maybe a day that week, a different day that week.
Yeah.
Okay, so who do I work with? Who's the point person in the district to like do all the scheduling and that? To, once we decide it's Sarah or Minnie?
I had an idea. I was thinking about what if we had Ed Sloat do it? More of a neutral person, take it off of Minnie's plate. But I'm fine with Minnie doing it too.
Okay, well, I can also do January 15th, which is a Thursday. You guys aren't, not in session on Fridays, right? So
No.
Correct. There's no school Fridays.
Thursday, the 15th would also work.
Be a good day to be able to
Oh.
meet.
Is there in session? The
The
16th?
16th
Yeah, I can do that day too.
of January.
Oh, that might work.
It just might be easier to be able to,
Yeah.
interact with staff easier and,
Mhm.
not,
Sure.
So.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
that makes perfect sense. Okay, and then we'll figure out who to that with. Okay.
You can email me as the point person, and then I'll figure out who it needs to go to from there. But yeah, you can send it to me first, and then I'll work from there. I'm getting good at that.
All right, so any other questions about sort of what the service that we're going to provide? We're going to post it. Once we develop this criteria, we're going to handle all the applications, the recruiting. If you know of somebody that you've come across in your board service that might have the skills to be successful here, we would ask you to send those names to us. We'll follow up on every reference that we get. There'll be some inside your district that will send us names. It's just pretty natural. And then we'll get ready for that meeting where we do the presentation. You'll work on interview questions, put those groups together, identify a chair, and then we'll pick a day where we'll do a Zoom meeting and do the training for the chair. And so we'll have everything almost ready to go when we come back in with the presentation of candidates. But that's going to be the big work on that day, and then go over the interview questions too. And for your colleagues that aren't here, hopefully you can bring them up to speed on these things. The other thing we would like to do is do a one-on-one with each one of you via telephone or Zoom. We just want to get to know you better. Candidates always ask us questions about the board. And we can do a much better job when we know you and we sort of know what your interests are. So if that's okay, Sarah, we'll reach out to you to try to set up some times when we can do those, and Christy and I'll divide those up just informal conversation, just sort of your thoughts on the search and your thoughts on the district.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Anything else, Dr. Wilson, on that? Okay. All right. So you've got a piece of paper in front of you. What I'd like you to do now is take a moment or two and list out, let's just say 3 to 5 of the most important criteria that you believe the successful candidate must possess or be able to demonstrate. And here's how that reads in a posting. The Liberty School District is seeking a highly qualified superintendent that can demonstrate, and that's what we're looking to build consensus on tonight. So what do they need to be able to demonstrate? What do they have? What do they need to possess? Skills, traits, characteristics. What are you looking for? Who gets your job based on your individual perspective? And then we're going to reach consensus. Hopefully. Your handwriting's so much better than mine.
Feel the spell loose. Do your own work.
I think ready to list out some.
I think we're
some
ready.
traits and characteristics. I'm going to write them down as.
So here's how we'd like to engage this. Give us the first one on your list with no explanation. Just give us the list. We're going to put them up there. We're going to see how common we are. We're going to ultimately do some combining because the posting is going to be 4 to 7 max bullets. And then I'll have you explain why you put what you put after we exhaust the list, okay? So if there's somebody says something, you've got it on your list, unless you want to add to it to make it stronger, go on to the next one that you've got. So Sarah, you want to start?
Sure. Strong leadership, strong in bold capitalized letters, please. It's fine. You don't have to do that, but that is how I have it.
Strong and bold leadership. Okay, Kelly?
Clear and respectful communication.
Thank you. Brian?
There you relationship builder. You took my first one too.
Back to you, Sarah.
Well versed in school finance.
Okay. Thank you. Kelly?
Clearly understands the role of the board and the role of the superintendent.
Can't wait till you explain that one to us. I like it though. Brian?
I was somebody with experience.
Experience.
Correct.
You want to qualify that experience as,
Just experience as a superintendent, prior experience as superintendent. Basically, because we've been without somebody's gonna have a lot of work when they show up. Oh, sorry.
no, I know.
He
right?
asked.
But I mean, experience could be anything, right? Could be life experience. Yeah. Okay, Sarah?
I'm trying to think about how to say this. I want somebody who can help grow who can create a culture where growth is promoted and encouraged. I know that's a lot of words,
Mhm,
but
that's good. Okay, Kelly?
Maintains integrity in all decisions and actions.
Brian?
Oh, that's my last one, but transparent.
Transparent. Okay. Sarah, you got any more?
I would like someone who's from a similar sized district at the least. So larger would be fine, but not somebody from a tiny district.
Kelly?
Just trying to think how to say it. Has okay, I'll go with this one first. Clear, fair, and transparent expectations.
Done? Okay, Brian passes. Sarah?
I think this one is kind of aligned with the previous one, but a positive culture builder. Like, yeah.
How
Yeah.
about let's just add that to create a culture where,
That's why I
create
said
a
I think
positive
it's.
culture where growth is encouraged.
Hey, that's a good idea.
About
Create
halfway.
Create a positive
right there.
culture. Yeah.
This is why we revise and edit.
Kelly?
Is a team player and ensures voices in the district feel heard and reflected in district decisions.
Okay. Brian passes. Any more, Sarah?
I mean, this should go without saying, but is uh, support staff. You know, of- most supers are former teachers, but you know that kind of like has been in the trenches and knows what it's like to be in the front lines.
Kind of going along with what Mr. Sorrentioni said about superintendent experience, I'd love for this person to have both like experience in the ed services side and the operational side, like having
Okay.
worked.
To me, experience is a little more important.
I would tend to agree. I think you know, preferred, sure, but I don't think it should be a disqualifying factor if they have the experience necessary.
you have any more, Kelly? Okay, so let's go through these real quick and put some context to it. So let's start with strong and bold leadership. What do you mean by that?
I think that going along with what was said about needing someone with experience, we have had a vacancy of leadership since September for sure. And then, prior to that, we've had all of these changes and multiple superintendents. We need someone who can come in and really take it by the reins and lead and be that vocal, well seen, well heard, in front of everyone. Follow me and I will take you on the right path. We're going to get there together kind of leader. Some people are quiet leaders, and I think that works fine in some instances. I don't think we need a quiet leader here. I think we need the cheerleader leader to get us on the right track.
Good. Clear and respectful communicator.
I think, we need somebody that is, direct, right? Like, this is what I need from you. It kind of, I feel like, goes along with bold leadership. Like, clear to me is like direct, but not in a rude, condescending, like, I'm better than you because I'm at the top, right? Like, we're a team. Like, I want it to be respectful, but also I am the leader, right? And this is the direction we're going, and I'm going to listen to you, and you're all going to play a part. But I really do think it goes along with like, but I'm the leader of the ship, and this is the direction. We're going to work on the direction together, but you're going to know what to expect from me, right? Like I'm going to be clear and direct with you.
Relationship builder.
Yeah, that goes with the staff and the community. Because our community is a little diverse. We have some, like, I don't know if you want to call it like suburban area. Then we have a lot of rural area. So they need to be able to navigate both and be able to talk to the community. It's all farms down here, but up there it's people who normally commute to work. So they got to be able to do both. And along with having a different community, our teachers come from the different communities. So they need to be able to communicate with them also.
I actually thought I was in Nebraska when I pulled in over here.
Yeah.
Voices are heard and reflected in decisions for the district.
That was me. I think, I'm going to say for the last 18 months to 2 years that a large majority of the community does not feel like their voices are heard. And I'd go to say staff too. And if you look at our climate surveys from the last 2 years, that's what you're going to hear. I don't think they feel heard. I don't think they feel valued, that their input matters. And I think in order to build this community, build the trust, that person has to make people feel heard, right? And not just heard, but that, their input means something and they're going to see it reflected.
Good. Finance.
Well, we currently and have not had an executive director of finance since last February, I believe. And so we've had one person sort of running all of the things, and it's a huge task. And last year we were going to be over budget if we didn't make some serious cuts in the spring. So we had to, have hard decisions where we had to make cuts and pull back things. And we're tight this year too. We're kind of in that same thing. So we need someone who really knows the finance part of it too and has a good handle on that to help, especially since we don't have, it would be fabulous. And hopefully we have one by the time the new superintendent starts, but we don't currently have anybody in charge
So
of
you have
that.
you have a position open.
We have a position open. Yes, but that the executive director of business services overseeing finance is currently vacant. So,
Okay.
and has been.
Okay. Totally understand that. Clearly understands the role. That's the one I've been waiting
I think that that the governing board, certain governing board members have overstepped into the role of the superintendent. And I think that has created a lot of turmoil in this district. And I think it's very important for the superintendent to clearly understand that role, that they are the superintendent and the board should not be involved in the day-to-day operations. That we, are a governance team, right? That the board only acts as one, and we only do that in a public meeting. And that, giving direction behind the scenes, that needs to be a boundary. And the superintendent needs to be comfortable to set that boundary and ensure that boundary remains.
Got to editorialize on that one just a little bit, because I think most superintendent candidates and superintendents understand that. The problem in some districts is what happens when members of the trustees don't follow that, right?
Right.
And so many, many times the superintendent is in a position to correct that behavior. That has to be self-corrected by the board. And we do that through governing principles, right? Operating principles. But it sounds like you want somebody that's not afraid to say, you're getting into my area here, and that's not good for the system. So I understand that.
And I think it again goes back to strong and bold leadership, that they have the confidence,
Okay.
right? And the ability to be like, hey, this is a boundary, right? And because I really think has interfered in, with the running of the district.
Yeah. Well, there's no question. I mean, you look at the vacancies across the country, and you can, 80% of them are because there is some adverse board behavior. And that makes it very difficult. If they're a good superintendent, they're going to go someplace where that isn't the case, right?
Right.
So that's good. Appreciate you sharing that. Great. Superintendent experience, actual superintendent experience.
Yeah, I think so. And it kind of goes along with Ms. Zimmerman was saying. We have a lot of vacancies right now and a lot of issues in the past. So whoever's going to take this position is going to have a lot of catching up to do, and hitting the ground running. And so I just want them to have some experience to fall back on, so they're not trying to learn it on the go.
Mhm.
One question I did have, though, is when you said operational and education, what do you mean by operational? Because to me, that means something totally different. I don't want to exclude somebody so what do you mean by operations, though?
So, in my mind, I'm thinking somebody, on the ed services side, like teacher, principal, had some type of experience, curriculum, that kind of thing. And then some side of the operational side, like HR, finance, maintenance, because I feel like those are two very, different avenues. And so can they see how those things, are all necessary to run a district?
Would that be something you would exclude somebody or preferred?
No,
I think it might be a preferred.
Yeah, preferred 100%. And, what I was thinking, I think I'd love to have somebody with superintendent experience, but I'm not, I didn't know if we would be able to find somebody that had that. But for me, I wanted them to at least have been an assistant superintendent.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we can make it preferred.
Yeah. And I'm okay. If the consensus is we want that, that's totally fine.
So principals and assistant superintendents in districts where superintendents do a good job, they will come with those experiences, right? So they actually haven't been a superintendent, but they work with boards, they make decisions, they understand transportation, special education, all those things that matter. Sitting superintendents, of course, they have to do it all. So I understand your point about the experience part of that.
And let me just say, even though you want to maybe have somebody from a district your size, you might find that there are folks that are directors or executive directors or whatever the title, but they come from a little larger district and they have, to Kelly's point, experience in operations or maybe even ed services or what have you, and they're looking to advance and go to a smaller district
Yeah.
and become a superintendent. So, we just want to make sure that we don't to Brian's point, exclude anyone by having required on it, but it's important to say, you know, we want to prefer that they, you know, have some experiences in all of these areas, including, you know, maybe a school administrator or something like that, so that they're well-rounded to come in and, you know, help in an area, in the areas that are needed here.
I think one reason also goes back to like understanding the boundary between superintendent and board roles. I think it would be kind of hard for somebody who's never been in that superintendent spot and dealt with boards before.
Very valid point.
It is a very valid
Sure.
point.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, again, I would tell you, part of our work with you is whoever you do hire, we'll do our level best to try to coach them. But it can't be an impossible situation, because if it's an impossible situation, you know, people are not going to be willing to take that chance. So, okay, good. That defines it. Culture where growth is encouraged.
Yeah, that one was me again. So this one is important to me, and I'm probably bringing my own work into this, but I think, and I just saw this post on LinkedIn where it said, you know, people don't leave jobs where they're happy and respected and can grow, and you know that hits home to me. So for me, that's what this one is about. People want to be respected at work. They want to know that they're valued at work. They want to know that they have the opportunity for growth. However, that may look to them. It's different for everyone. Some people are happy with one thing. Some people, you know, want to go all the way to the top, and it's different. But as long as we have a culture built where that is allowed, it is encouraged. We want people to do more and learn more and want to do that. And kind of the idea of it being a safe work environment where you're allowed to stretch and maybe fumble a little bit, but that's okay because we learn from those fumbles, but all of that. So, you know, like I said, I'm kind of bringing it in from where I come from work, and that's how my environment is. We're encouraged. And I unfortunately hear from people that that is not how they feel. And so that's really something that, like, the positive culture, and culture starts from the top. The superintendent sets the culture for the whole district, and it trickles down. So if the superintendent is positive and encouraging the people right underneath them, then it trickles down to everyone, and it reaches our students at the end of the day because their
Absolutely.
teachers are happy and encouraged and growing. So I feel like the culture's been pretty negative, and we need to change that so badly.
Good. Integrity.
I mean, you know, they just need to have integrity. And I feel like it kind of goes back to like the boundary of the board and the superintendent, right? And that we are not allowing one or two people to like make every decision or drive, you know, that we have integrity, that we, you know, are respectful and, you know,
Yeah, I get it. No. Transparent, was that yours?
Kind of goes into what she just said too, but it's more like I don't want somebody making, I don't say backdoor deals, but working with certain members of staff or the board, and then trying to not share all the information with everybody.
That's a really important one. Similar size district experience.
That was me. Kind of to what your point was earlier, that we could get like an executive director from a larger district who may have lots of experience because of the size of the district and what goes along with that. And I completely respect that, which is why I would say similar size or larger. I think, as we've talked about with a lot of the other things, we know that we've got things that need to be taken care of, and, you know, vacancies. And I just think if somebody came in from, you know, a pretty small district, a single school, a few hundred students, it would just be completely overwhelming to walk into what they're going to need to be able to do when they get here. So, you know, very similar sized, And obviously, if it's been a larger district, they'd probably be in a great spot. But we had a couple people who applied for the interim who were from like, you know, a 500 student district. And I was like, you know, that might be, we have a school with more than that, you know, so like that's a lot to take on. So that's why I think that's important. Understood.
Could I add?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, kind of when I think about this, like I think about like your point about having superintendent experience, but if they're coming from a one school district, like that's not necessarily the experience that I think we want. And so that would be my concern with saying like only superintendent experience, because you have to think when people move jobs, they're looking for an advancement in some way. And so, you know, usually, you know, you're either going to come from a smaller district, right, trying to get to a bigger district to be a superintendent, or you're going to be an executive director, assistant superintendent in a larger district and come to a smaller one to be a superintendent. And I would tend to feel, I think, more comfortable with a larger district experience. But I hear what Mr. Strenzioni is saying is like, but they don't, you know, they won't have necessarily had that board experience. And that is something that's so important to me personally. So it feels really hard,
Yeah.
you know, to know what is the most important, but obviously it'll kind of depend on the candidates, you know.
What I would say to that is this is all great information and appreciate the clarification. It comes down to leadership. If they have the ability to lead, then you know they can come from a smaller place. They can come from a bigger place. But they've got to be able to learn and they have to be able to lead, and people have to trust them. If they can't be transparent and trustworthy, they can't lead. So, okay. Clear, fair, and transparent expectations.
I think anytime you have a new leader that comes in, sometimes staff can be apprehensive. You know, what's going to happen? What are they going to want? And so I want them to have high expectations, but I just want them to be clear. I don't, you know, kind of like a no back room, like no gotcha moment, like just be very clear, be fair, you know, have integrity, all of those things come together. But I think about our staff and how much they've been through in the last 2 years, and we're going to bring a new person in again, which we need to do, right? We absolutely do. But you know, I want them to feel good about it, right? And that person coming in, and that they're not going to play gotcha, or they're not going to listen to one person and say, you know, say negative things. Like, you know, they're going to come in and have clear, fair expectations, and you're going to know what they are. So.
Okay. Support staff.
I think that was mine. But it really, you know, if we really look at this list, a lot of them are very closely related
Very
and all
close.
tie back together. So again, this one is kind of the same thing, goes along with the, you know, positive culture, supporting the staff, making sure that our teachers and our staff all feel like you respect them, and at the end of the day they're happy at work because they know that their job is valued. They you know, they don't feel like you think that they're replaceable easily, right? We can just get rid of you and put someone else there, when we know that that's not true. Our teachers are the reason that everything happens, and if they feel like you think they're replaceable, that's not a way to work. So I want, you know, I want a cheerleader. I want the person in the front who's like, no, you all are amazing, and says it. You need to say it. You need to tell people.
And the new team player.
Yes.
Is that you too? Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So
I like to piggyback what she's saying real quick. At that same time, they need to be able to have that hard, honest conversation, not just be the cheerleaders. And that goes back to the leadership. But
Like the your expectations.
Sorry. Yeah. To that point, I say I want a cheerleader, but I think that when we're talking about a leader and somebody who knows how to lead, they're the cheerleader when it's the appropriate moment, but they're also the one who can sit you down and have the hard conversation when that needs to be done, but still support you and lead you forward, right? You can have a hard conversation and still make a person feel valued at the end of it, and you're helping them move forward instead of having a hard conversation and having somebody walk out of the room and feel dejected and beat down. So it's just, but it's all going back to leadership and knowing how to be a leader and what it means to be a good leader. That you want to make everyone around you look better, and that makes you a better leader. So, yeah, it's all the same thing, I think.
You need somebody that can inspire others to do good. Okay, look at that list. How can we combine? What sort of goes together? I think every one of you mentioned leadership. So let's put a circle around strong and bold leadership. And what else really gives definition to that?
I think clear and clear and respectful communication goes along with that. I think integrity in actions and decisions. Yeah.
I think it's easier to say what's not part of it.
Are you comfortable with strong and bold? I mean, I think I think that's an invitation.
I mean, I think it tells whoever's looking at that and sees that that is what we say.
Yeah.
It is very clear that if you're kind of a meek, quiet leader, you probably should not even try.
That's
You know, so
what I was thinking, yeah.
it puts out exactly what we want.
So a strong and bold leader that is also an effective communicator. With experience, with well-documented positive educational leadership experiences.
The top one.
Team player.
Yeah, it's probably in the leadership.
Yeah. Okay.
What color?
So I see it as, leadership, and then you've got the relationship part of leadership. And then you've got school finance. That's standalone, right? I mean, you don't have a director of school finance right now. So,
I think finance is an issue with every district in Arizona, probably the whole country. So
all right, so it's a clear understanding of
Yeah.
school finance. What else is a standalone? I mean, I can write a great bullet for leadership based on what you've described. Okay. I would encourage that we stay away from superintendent experience, but maybe superintendent-like experience, meaning high school principal or a principal in a district where they've been given the opportunity to do district level work. Same thing with an assistant superintendent or a director. More likely assistant sup or a director.
I'm not sure I'm gonna be okay with
Yeah,
that
and that's
principle.
well, and that's probably wasn't a good example. But talking more about central office people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it goes back. Like I prefer superintendent experience, but at the same time, for to come from a 10,000 student district and they're,
Yeah.
then it's a little different.
I'm thinking of my own experience, like the district I taught in, which was like a 25,000 student district that had 5 assistant superintendents. They had a wealth of experience, and I think if somebody like that came, we'd be like, "Oh yeah, I mean, you've done all the things in but if it was an executive director from a 1,000 student district, that's probably not enough experience. But yeah, so I think superintendent preferred, but I like the superintendent because that kind of gives a bit of an opening, while still letting them know that we're probably looking for more than a principal who's trying to move up. But yeah,
Okay, I can write that. I like that. If you do.
Can you repeat what you said earlier? Do you have it?
Yeah. So experience as a superintendent or, let me see, put a glass on. Experience as a superintendent preferred or related educational leader experiences in a similar district.
Similar or larger.
Okay? We'll make that one.
Can you read that last part again?
Yeah. And by the way, I'm going to work on these on the plane tomorrow.
Oh,
I'll send them to you and you get a chance to wordsmith them out, okay?
okay.
I just want to capture the essence of,
Could
we
it
want to
just be
capture the
large?
essence of what you're talking about. Experience as a superintendent preferred
Okay.
or related educational leader experiences in a similar district.
Or larger.
I think it should just be or larger, because if they're the same size, I think we just say we kind of want somebody with the superintendent. But if it's larger, then we're willing to take a like experience. Correct?
You don't want to read out too many from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if somebody had, let's say, 5 years of ed service, assistant soup, and then they moved over to the operational side for 5 years in a similar district, you know what I'm saying?
I understand we don't want to weed people out, but it kind of goes against what we just said 5 minutes ago. That if they came from a larger district, then we would be okay with them having like experience. So I think it needs to be said larger district in the posting.
Oh, I think it should say similar or larger. But I think so. I think the example that Kelly's using is if it was an assistant superintendent in a similar size district who had been an assistant soup for, 5 to 10 years or something. The example with the larger district maybe was more of an executive director position, maybe not a superintendent, maybe hadn't been there quite as long. At least that's how I'm looking at it. Because if you had somebody who's been an assistant soup for a long time and has had a couple different roles, maybe, even if the district is pretty much the same size, they've probably hit all of the things that we're looking for or have experience in all of that.
Or they could be.
And I think the last thing I'm going to say about that is, I'm a big believer in we hire people because they're experts in what they do. And so we hired a search firm because they know how to weed people out based on what we want. So if we let it be open so that they can get more applicants and then they can review through and sort of weed through and find the ones that match us best, that would be great. But if we narrow it too much, we might be cutting out, you know what I'm saying? So like, I just don't want to make our posting too narrow.
I understand what you're.
And just let them do the weeding. They know what we want. We've been very clear about what we want.
I understand what you're saying, but it's still our responsibility to determine the search criteria.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this exercise, right? Because we want to hear from you and, we have a good sense. Let me work on the language and what, I need some plain time to just.
No, that's
kinda
fine. I might
move
read
through
it
this.
tomorrow and feel like
Yeah.
read it differently. So
All right. I'll get it to you. I'll get it by the time I land. Send you a copy. I want Chrissy to put her eyes on it first. How about this? On the leadership one, strong and bold leadership that can inspire others to grow and develop to their best ability. Does that capture? What? That's the next one. Clear and respectful communicator that will build relationships based on trust and integrity while being transparent. What else is it? What about a director of finance from a big district?
Okay. Can I respond? I'm not sure that I think that like somebody that's coming from just a director of finance can be a superintendent. Like that can handle all of the HR like concerns, all the board. Director of finance has their head in an Excel spreadsheet.
I meant that as a joke. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. But here's what I would say. Districts of size. I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, so we had 43,000 kids. every assistant superintendent had skill set to be a superintendent, including the director of finance. And it was because of the way we structured their experiences, right? So they had an HR function, they had a board function, they had a community, a legislative, all of those functions. So what we want to not do is limit that, right? But they would have to be able to show that they've got that skill set, because if they don't have that skill set, you know, I always joke the accountants that I know very well, they don't really have the personality, right, to be the inspirational superintendent. But what if there is somebody out there that does and can do it? So we don't want to close the door on that,
No.
but we get it. I mean, I understand it. So you want school finance as a standalone, right? I mean, that's an essential knowledge of school finance.
I would say knowledge of Arizona finance, because
But
I
then are
mean,
we limiting it to?
exactly finance. I mean, they've got to have background for this position. I mean, this is just my opinion. I mean, I think I would agree with you. Got to have some sort of background in finance. You don't have a finance director.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
knowledgeable.
mean, I hope that we find one. You know what I mean? So I guess to me, like, you know, kind of going back to a different point, I feel like this feels a little limiting to
Mhm.
me if we say they have to.
I mean, we hired a search firm to find them. And know if they're-
Well, maybe preferred. Yeah,
So
maybe preferred.
I honestly think, based on how you described the finance situation, they need to come in with knowledge of finance. I don't think it hurts it, and I will tell you this again: most of the people who are serious applicants are going to have that. Now, I would never want to say Arizona only, because I think you're going to be pulling in from multiple states.
True.
Okay. So we've got transparent, we've got relationship builder.
Mark 'em off as you read.
things going down.
We got communicator.
I feel like that was kind of like goes with relationship builder.
So. About finance.
I think that kind of goes with the experience in leadership. I don't know how you would write that. Yeah, I just don't know how you would write that as a requirement. I don't know. I'm just asking. Like, you must be able to tell the board. No.
That's your boss.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. I mean, I'm not, but I just think when I look at our situation over the past 2 years, that's the number one thing that stands out to me.
Oh, I agree. I'm just trying to figure out how they would
How we
write
would
that
write
as a job posting.
Right. Do you have integrity in there?
I do. What about a team player that ensures that all voices are heard and respected?
I think when we interview candidates, you know, we'll be able to get a sense about the whole experience with board and their relationship with the board, if it's a current superintendent.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, if current superintendent or has superintendent experience, do you talk to like previous board members as part of your
Sure, we
reference
can.
checks?
You
We
bet.
always do. Good and the bad.
And I think we'll just have a really good idea if they understand their role or not.
Right.
Let's talk about this understanding of role, and because I do worry that will be a hard one. That might scare people off, because
But
we
it's
won't.
the absolute truth.
It is, but we won't have the benefit of explaining it to them as they're looking at the job posting. So, with all due respect, I think I'd like to see that as a question during the interview, more so than on a posting. Only because I don't want people to say, "Ooh, that doesn't sound good," even though it's accurate. Okay. All right. Let me play with these. I'll get you, Sarah, a copy of them tomorrow, and then share with your colleagues. Wordsmith them out, let us know. Want to get it posted by Monday, whatever the 15th is, Tuesday? Is it Monday? Okay. Okay. This is a good exercise for us because we learn quite a bit about what you're looking for and what we need to be able to talk with candidates about. Any other questions about the search process or where we go from here? Because would like a closed session for just a few minutes to. No, we don't have that.
I think it's at the beginning that we can, right?
We go into
So
it.
we're going to do that, no?
Yeah.
Salary compensation is what we can talk about.
I consulted with our board attorney who said we could do it in public because
Okay.
it is a public, because it's a public record. So unless somebody has a major objection to it, I'm fine with it.
So we don't put a number in our postings. We talk about a range, or we talk about regionally competitive. So we'll probably like to see a copy of the contract that you've had for your previous superintendents. And candidates are going to ask us what it is. So if we can talk about a range, if you're comfortable with that, that would be helpful for us. And then length of contract, we want to talk about as well too, because superintendents are reluctant to take on a position with challenges, anything less than at least a 2-year contract. And you can go more than 2 in Arizona. So, floor is open.
So I guess I'll just start with just the length. I'm okay with 2 years. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I would not want to do more than 2 years.
I get it. I'm not opposed to a 1-year contract either.
Okay, well, I'm not, I would prefer 1 year, but I know it's going to be really hard to do. So.
I understand the idea of the 1 year, especially with where we've been and not wanting to get locked in. However, I also understand that most people are not going to want to jump in when you're only saying, hey, come for a year, but we have a mess for you to clean up. Good luck. And so I think, I get that 2 years at a minimum is probably all we're really going to, if we want to attract a good candidate, we're probably going to have to offer 2 years. I would worry that anything shorter than that, as we've kind of discussed, would be someone jumping ship from somewhere they're not happy with right now just to go somewhere else. And maybe they're here for a year and then they leave to go find someplace that'll give them 2 or 3 years. But I think 2 is reasonable. But I wouldn't want to do more than 2 either. So I think we're kind of along the same lines here.
Well, that definitely helps us. I mean, and helps us with candidates because they're seeking stability too. I mean, this seems like it's a job for a very confident, strong, bold leader that understands that it's not going to be turnkey easy, and that as tough decisions get made, and again, we're going to do everything in our power to create this cohesive unit if we can with the superintendent. But that doesn't always work, right? Depending upon, how people approach that whole work thing. But I think a 2-year contract at least gives them the ability to say to themselves, I got 2 years to prove myself. And then if they work, do whatever you can to wrap them up for as long as you can, because again, we want 5 years as the ultimate goal for a superintendent, and the stuff that you're dealing with now becomes a distant memory, right? Finances get addressed, your stability with staff, and if you have a lot of turnover, that gets addressed, your community trust gets addressed, but the one and done and even the 2 and done just is not good for education and kids and communities. So, okay. What about salary compensation? Is that something you're comfortable talking about?
I mean, do you guys have like a range that you would recommend based on our district size, our location, things like that? I mean, I think we all know what we've paid other people, but I'd just be curious
Okay.
your expertise.
We haven't done that homework yet, so let's
Oh, okay.
do this. Let's, if Minnie would send a copy of the existing superintendent contract to us for review, we'll do that. And then we'll do, Krista, I'll do some research on comparable sized districts, and see what that range is.
I mean, I think it's fine if we. Yeah. So we paid the interim superintendent $180,000.
Okay.
And the
Ba-
one
that was his base, right?
that was his base.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. The permanent one, the last part of it, I think initially his was 182, and then it went up like when they changed him from the interim to the permanent. So I want to say it was like 188 was his base.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that 188 was the base on the contract that Dr. Monroe had when they moved him from the interim to the permanent. But yeah, that's base, and then all of the normal
Fringe.
things that go along with it, the car stipend and the cell phone and all that kind of stuff was all included as well.
Plus you have the performance stipend too, right?
Yes.
Which really our model lends itself well to that because we set those first year goals with you.
Mhm.
With them. Okay, that seems very reasonable. But we'll term it regionally or, what's the term? I lost it. Regionally competitive with similar sized districts. So, but when we have the conversations with them, they're going to ask. They'll never ask you, but they'll ask us.
Or they can just watch the video.
All right, I think we have what we need. Any other questions that we can answer for you?
Sorry. Is just for because my memories. Is there anything that we put off that we need to go over before this gets posted? Because I feel like we talked about a couple of things. I'm gonna go through my notes just to make sure I'm not missing anything.
I mean, do you need us to approve
That's what I'm
the
thinking.
profile? Because we have it for later in the agenda, but if we're not able to see it, how do you want us to handle that?
Okay, so you put it on the agenda for, well,
We don't have to. It's
here's what you can do. You can direct us to submit a draft of the posting of the profile, position profile. The home office, it's going to take them a day or two to put the entire package together. So, I mean, you can just approve, I mean, if you feel like you have to approve something, you can just approve that, that we get a draft to you as soon as possible for your review.
How did we handle it last time? Wasn't it last time that it was we gave direction and then wasn't the motion something about giving the board president the ability to approve it or something along those lines? So then
Minnie, do you remember when that was? Do you have the minutes? If not, I'm sorry.
I think you got it covered in your agenda item.
yeah.
we do have it on. We did put it on the agenda just in case we needed it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But because there's not a draft yet, we're just trying to figure out how to,
You'll get the complete draft next week before
might-
the posting.
Sorry, what was that?
Like I almost feel like we have to wait until that's in front of us to vote on it.
I kind of agree. I mean, that's, was my kind of concern and so we may just need to have like a Zoom, meeting next week once you provided the draft.
So we need you to do is look at the search criteria tomorrow. All right? And then get it back to me. We'll give the search criteria with the dates to the home office, the point of contact information that we need about board members, size of district, anything that you want that describes your district goes into the actual posting. And that can all be done pretty quickly, a day or two. So we can do this step one, criteria, step two, point of contact information. You've got somebody working on that now. If we can get that tomorrow, Monday, then we can get you the posting probably Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're right on schedule.
There's not a whole lot to approve because you've approved. I'm not sure what you're going to wait to approve. All you're going to see is what Steve just described, unless you are looking to approve, not following what you're wanting to approve, because you're tonight approving the work that
Search
we're going to be
process.
doing, process and timeline. So I think what you might be thinking is like, oh, we're going to see like a brochure or like a pamphlet or something really fancy, but it's really not. It's just a timeline. It's
So
the criteria that we just established tonight.
as like as directed thing.
Exactly. You have a motion in front of you. Yeah, you.
Minnie was prepared.
Can I just go back? I'm just looking at like my notes. In the application, is there going to be kind of a written
Yes.
portion? Okay.
But it's not, it's basically this, and we can do it any way you want. We no longer ask them to kill themselves off by answering 7 questions,
No.
right? So it's one universal question, typically based on your skills and experiences and the position profile for Liberty, what makes you a good fit for this position? Or why are you the best candidate? Or why are you interested? We'll word it something like that.
Yeah.
And we limit them to like 300 to 500 words. So you'll get to read that response just like we will.
Yeah.
But then on the video interviews, if you have a certain question you want us to ask, do that. But we're going to pull it off of, when Christy does the stakeholder feedback, we're going to have a pretty good sense of the culture. And we're going to create some questions based on what we heard there.
Okay. Yeah, I just found when we did the interim search that being able to kind of read their writing it was just one
Oh, yeah,
question
yeah,
also
yeah.
was I found personally very helpful.
Are you an English teacher by any chance?
Social studies.
So,
Any other questions? We're excited to get rolling on
Yeah.
this, and sorry about the confusion on the agenda item, but we'll
That's not a confusion on your part. I think that's more, we were prepared. We're all set.
All
We're just making sure we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed
of course,
so
yeah,
that
I want to make sure.
nothing can come back at us.
when I send you the criteria tomorrow, I'll just do a quick rehash of everything we need for the posting so that you all know, right? But big thing is start thinking about interview questions that you want to ask. We want them to be yours. And then anything comes up from now, feel free to contact either one of us through ourselves. You got my contact info.
I do.
Share it with other colleagues if you'd like.
Okay.
We would like to maybe see if we can schedule 30-minute one-on-ones with each board member. Probably getting close to the holidays here, so it might have to be next week if we can. And we'll build that around your schedule.
Minnie, is that something you could send out an email to all the board members? Just
We send you some
alerting
dates
them?
and times, and if you would just schedule those, that'd be great. And again, 30 minutes, and we'd really like to do that with each one of the board members too.
That would be great. Yeah, and I can share. I can share your contact information with the whole board. You're good with that, okay? And then again, I can be your point of contact in general.
Okay.
But
You're
Yeah.
very responsive,
Thank
even when
you.
you're at tournaments in different
Thank you.
states.
I
So,
know.
Yes, you really are.
we chatted when I was in Utah. That's what we do.
Okay, well, we're going to make this as positive a process as we can, and we're going to put our best foot forward. And so we're just excited to get rolling, and we got quite a bit of work to do between now and whenever once the posting is out, between now and when we come back, but that'll be a good meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds great. All right, we can adjourn the work study session at 7:19. I call the special board meeting to order. It is 7:24 p.m. on Thursday, December 11th, 2025. We are at the Jerry Rovey District Office. We have 3 board members present, Board Member Zimmerman, Board Member Cirincione, and myself, Board Member Schmidt. Sorry. The first item on the agenda is 3.2, approval of special meeting agenda.
I motion to approve the special meeting agenda form consistent with Board Policy 1-302 and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We can take a vote. Board Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that pass 3-0. Item 4.1, approval of consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. We'll take a vote. Board Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. That will pass 3-0. We'll move on to item 5.1, discussion approval of permanent superintendent search next steps and process. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to approve McPherson and Jacobson to proceed with the Liberty Elementary School District Permanent Superintendent Search as discussed in the work study session.
Second. I was just going to say, can we have a discussion really quick?
Oh, sorry.
Just do we want to add like that you are the point of contact?
As discussed.
Okay.
It's all covered. All right, so we have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Board Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that pass 3-0. All right. Item 6.1, board member comments on agenda topics and items for future consideration. Does anybody have anything they would like to add? I actually have one thing. This is very specific. For the March meeting, can we have a note to have a presentation by the Purple Star for Loretta Zembro's signature program? I have an email I will forward you about that. That March works, but I wanted to get it down as well. Otherwise, no one else. All right, we can move on. Upcoming board meetings. 7.1, we have Monday, January 12th at the regular board meeting. Monday, January 26th is currently scheduled as a special board meeting and optional if we need it. Monday, February 9th is a special board meeting and a regular board meeting. And then Monday, February 23rd, we have a special board meeting. We also have Tuesday, February 17th now scheduled as a special meeting to meet with McPherson and Jacobson and discuss the superintendent candidates. All right, then we can move on to 8.1 and adjourn the special meeting at 7:28 p.m.